I am stringing together 3 videos for you guys to watch. And what I want us to consider is that the patriarchy is not working for lots of people, and that many people are basically just performing these traditional roles. They don't actually want to be in them. They are cosplaying adulthood. They are checking off the boxes because getting married and having kids is part of things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to work. You're supposed to fall in love. You're supposed to have the kids. But not everybody wants to do this. They just do it. And so when you have the opportunity, when some people have the opportunity to escape, they are escaping. So the first woman is talking about using golf as an escape. But the escape over the weekend could be sports, it could be working on your car, it could be going to the gym, it could be just anything. And then the next person is talking about men needing to go back into the office for reasons because they use the work environment for socialization, and how these people really don't mind being away from home because they don't really want to be there, and they are using work as an excuse and an escape. So watch the videos. These are 2 TikTok creators. I will put their names in the description box. So jump in the comments, tell me what you think. Like, comment, share. Thanks.
Because they don't want to go home. Because their wife and kids are at home.
Good morning. My freshly faded masculine haircut is back. My father always used to tell me, when you're out in the adult world, be wary of people, especially men, who don't ever want to go home. My ex had a friend who was married with 1 child at the time, and her spouse spent almost the entire weekend golfing. And I don't really understand golf, like culturally, environmentally. I have a lot of issues with it, but whatever. If that's how you want to spend your time, if you truly love golf and you want to golf on the weekends, that's great. But that didn't seem like that's what was happening. And when I kind of asked around guys who golfed to say, like, what was the appeal? And about 20% of them said, I like the fresh air. And, when I get my favorite club and I get like a good stroke in and the ball goes where I want it to go and it's like great and whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome. But the other 80% just kind of shrugged their shoulders and were like, it's an excuse to get out of the house. And I'd pry further and I'd be like, you work full time, so you work like 10, 12 hours a day, and you want to get out of your home even more. Don't you want to like relax at home with your family, on the weekends, or like do something, take them to the park or whatever? And they would straight up admit, like, no, I want to get away from my family. I don't know if there's data on this, but most of the men I talked to, granted this is just anecdotal, about roughly 80% of them said they only went golfing just to get away from their families, basically to get out of the house. And when I inquired what their wives and children were doing while they were golfing, they were just like, oh, I don't know, my wife takes them to here or there, blah, 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 whatever. They didn't seem to care. It was very clear that they only golfed because on the weekends because they wanted to get away from their wives and children. There's an alarming amount of men that honestly just don't like their wives, don't like their children. And we noticed this during the pandemic because, you couldn't golf because everything was closed. But as soon as it was possible to go back to the office, a lot of these guys went back because they were desperate. They were dying to get away from their families. They could not stand being at home with their wives and kids like 24/7. They were the first people back in the office. And it just like, even in the early days when like disease, this is vaccine. So you're risking disease, you're risking bringing disease home to your family because you're just so desperate to get away from your family. And then my question is, why do you have a family if you don't want to spend time with them?
Ding, ding, ding. You hit the nail on the head. This is a response to a video that I did about why are all these companies making people return to the office when they know people don't want to return to the office and they know it's going to bring morale down. They say it's to bring morale up, but Be serious. And this right here is it, I think. And we're going to be doing an episode on this on my podcast, Not Another Business Podcast, out Friday. Here's the thing. Let's think about who are all these CEOs forcing people back to the office, Salesforce, Amazon, Disney, whomever. They are white men. Now let's think about who working in office benefits the most. I would argue white men, right? Because they got to spend their time in the office hobnobbing and FaceTiming, and that is how even the mediocre white men were able to work themselves up the corporate ladder, right? Because people crave familiarity. They were able to sort of like hobnob and do the thing, water cooler talk, whatever, their way to the top. Now, we're all working from home. So if you were a mom in corporate America in the office before, you may have had to leave early a few times a week in order to get your kid. Or if you were the primary, house giver, even if you didn't have a kid, you were the one planning the parties, planning the vacations, whatever. Again, that meant more of your brain share was outside of the office because men didn't want to take on those tasks. So that meant you weren't spending as much time hobnobbing and you weren't seen as an equal. But now we've all been working from home. And now if I, as a mom, need to take time out of my day to pick up my kid or to plan, soccer pickup or whatever, it doesn't matter because I can just plan my day around that. You don't know if I'm doing that at 12 o'clock noon or at 8 o'clock at night because I'm working from home. And suddenly the playing field gets a little bit more even. Now, who gets mad about that? Not women, not people of color. It's white men. And I think this is really the crux of why they are. Yes, the commercial real estate for sure. They don't want these offices sitting empty, which is why my company never signed long leases. The longest we ever signed was 2 years. But I think it's a power play. Anyway, we're going to be talking about this on the episode, so please be sure to check it out. This is such a good point. This is a response to a video I made about why companies are forcing people back to the office. It is primarily white male-led companies doing this, and it is because white men are the one who benefit from being in the office. So go back and watch that. But this point, I think, is such a good one. Let me tell you guys, I was a consultant for 2 years, management consultant, which meant I was on the road Monday to Thursday. And I hated being on the road. I would cry every Sunday night in my husband's arms because I just did not want to be on the road. I didn't want to be away from him. I didn't want to be away from our home. Anyway, every time I was on a new project with a new partner, I would ask them, how do you get used to this? Being away from home, travel. The men, almost all of the men, do you know what they said to me? They were like, oh, I enjoy being away from home. I like being away from home. And they would always try to couch it as my wife does too, because absence makes the heart grow fonder. So what are you talking about? I have a 2-year-old. If I were gone 4 days a week, or if my husband were gone 4 days a week, that would not make me feel fonder. That would not make me feel fonder. That would make me feel angrier. Okay. That is a long time. And these people were on the road 50 weeks a year, not here and there, literally all the time. The partners honestly traveled more than we did because they were always selling the next thing. And to me, it just read very much as work time is playtime for you. Because when you go home, you have to participate in bath time and you have to participate in, bedtime and wrangling the kids and, disciplining the kids and all of those things. But if you're only home on the weekends, you get to be fun and you get to play and you don't have to deal with the mess and the pain and the struggle. And it's funny because work time is y'all's playtime, but the reason you're telling everyone that they have to be back in the office is because you don't trust that they're actually doing their work. But you're not doing the work. You're the ones out here playing. It's wild.